The roller coasters Max and Moritz and the Efteling are two dueling Mach-powered coasters, situated on a German-inspired section in the park. They tell the story of Max and Moritz, two scoundrels that pull pranks on people in the town they live in. As is often the case with the Efteling, this story is based on a German tale from 1865. This does not bode well. What is Efteling not telling us? Let's find out in this video and uncover the dark story behind Max and Moritz. If you are only familiar with the iteration of the Efteling, then yes, they did alter the story to be more child-friendly. And they have published this in their fairy tale book, En ze leven nog lang en gelukkig. Or, for the English speakers, And they lived happily ever after. But the original story was written by Wilhelm Busch in 1865, and it tells a different tale than what we are told. This story is told in rhymed couplets, and it tells us about the 7 pranks Max and Moritz have pulled on their neighbors. If you are from a German-speaking country, you will likely be familiar with this tale, but I do think this story will add a dark layer on top of the otherwise colorful and cheerful ride. So let's go through the 7 pranks of Max and Moritz, and see how the Efteling has integrated this within the ride, or the nearby Max and Moritz Square. We are starting with the first prank, which happens in the yard of the Widow Bolte. That name may already sound familiar to you, so keep watching to see what the Efteling has done with it. The prank was pulled on the prized chickens of Widow Bolte. Max and Moritz cut up a slice of bread into 4 small pieces and tied them together with a string. As the bread was spotted by the rooster, he called over the hens, and they all gobbled up a piece of bread. And only then, they realized they got caught. The chickens tried to untangle themselves with all their might, and out of panic took flight. Hey, this rhymes. But as they were flying, they got caught on the branch of a tree and got strangled. Just before they passed away, the chickens laid an egg, and this noise woke up the Widow Bolte. As she rushed outside, she was distraught by what caught her eye. Her most prized possessions were hanging dead on a tree. Sick from grief, she cuts the chickens free from the tree and takes them inside without saying a word. And this was just the first prank that Max and Moritz have pulled. Though, this was a bit more than a prank, honestly. And sadly, the Widow Bolte is not free from their shenanigans just yet, as the second prank follows right after. After Widow Bolte has recovered from her shock, she decided to at least make the best out of a bad situation. She plucked the chickens and prepared them to be roasted. As she started with her cooking, it attracted the attention of Max and Moritz, who climbed on a roof with a fishing rod. Peering down the chimney, they spotted the roasted chickens. As the Widow Bolte went down to the cellar to get some sauerkraut to eat along with the chicken, Max started fishing up the chickens. Within no time at all, he pulled all the chickens up, which also riled up the dog Spitz. But Max and Moritz immediately fled the scene. As the Widow Bolte came back upstairs, she was greeted by an empty pan and yelled out for Spitz, thinking he was the one that ate the chicken. She grabbed a heavy ladle and started punishing Spitz, who had done nothing wrong. And meanwhile, Max and Moritz were hidden in a hedge and ate all of the chicken. Man, these kids are cruel. And those were just the first 2 pranks that they pulled, if you would even call them pranks. But now is a good moment to see what the Efteling has done with these particular pranks. And they really doubled down on this prank, because across from the exit of the Max and Moritz ride is a restaurant named Frau Bolte's Küche. And guess what she serves? That's right, chicken. And the cherry on top is the scene of Max and Moritz on the roof, fishing up the chicken. Without knowing this story, you wouldn't think much of it, but man, Efteling really went there. Anyway, let's continue on with the third prank. This one was pulled on the tailor Mr. Buck. His house was located on the other side of a stream, and he needed a bridge to cross over to the road to the town. Max and Moritz were once again up to no good, and they sawed a big gap down the middle of the bridge. As they were finished, they started taunting and insulting Mr. Buck from across the bridge. Mr. Buck ran outside to punish the boys, but as he was crossing the bridge, crack! The bridge broke in half, and he dropped into the freezing cold water. As Max and Moritz fled the scene, Mr. Buck managed to hold on to the legs of 2 geese, which helped him to get onto dry land. From there, the soaked man made his way back home, but would soon notice that he inhaled too much water as he was in the creek. So next to having to dry up, he also had a horrible stomachache. But luckily his wife came to the rescue with a hot flat iron and drew out all the cold and water, which is also the end of the third prank. The Efteling has not integrated this verse of the story into the themed area of Max and Moritz. Or at least, I haven't seen anything related to Mr. Buck. Maybe I've just missed it, so let me know down in the comments if you did spot something. Now for the fourth prank we are heading over to the teacher Lempel. Max and Moritz obviously don't like him, because why would they be stuck at school if there's a whole world out there to explore and prank? Lempel was well known for enjoying a smoke from his pipe, and this is where the prank took form. At one point, on a Sunday morning, Max and Moritz saw their chance. As Lempel was playing the organ in church, Max and Moritz broke into his house and started pouring gunpowder into the pipe. Soon after, Max and Moritz fled the scene as the church service has ended, and Lempel was returning home. Once he got there, Lempel got himself comfortable, lit his pipe, and took a deep drag, only for the pipe to explode in his face. The explosion caused quite chaos around his room. Everything got scattered around the floor. And as for Lempel, his entire face turned black from the soot. This prank is a classic among cartoons, and you have likely seen an instance of it. But this prank can also be spotted in the Efteling, and it actually plays a bigger role in the roller coaster. When you are riding the blue track, which is Max's side, you can spot a shadow of Lempel lighting his pipe as you are about to enter the station building through the school. The resulting explosion is heard in the station, and is the reason why your train picks up speed, as if being blasted away. Then, as you are about to enter the station after your second round, you can spot Lempel opening and looking out of the window, completely black from the explosion. I am glad to see that the Efteling has included this prank into the ride, even though they had bigger plans that were cut due to budget constraints. Onwards to the fifth prank, which Max and Moritz pulled on Uncle Fritz. For this prank, they went to gather maybugs, which were found in the trees nearby. Max and Moritz shook the tree, causing the bugs to fall out, only to be picked up by the rascals and put in paper bags. They then went to Uncle Fritz's house and put the bugs at the foot of his bed. Later that night, Uncle Fritz went to bed and fell asleep soundly. But slowly but surely, the bugs marched up to Uncle Fritz and eventually climbed onto his nose. Uncle Fritz wakes up in shock, spotting the bugs and throwing off the blankets. The bugs start buzzing and flying around him, pinching Uncle Fritz as he starts stamping them with his shoes. Eventually, all the bugs were vanquished and dead, so Uncle Fritz can resume his sleep. I don't think I would be able to go back to sleep after such an ordeal, at least not without completely changing the bed sheets and the like. But here we are. The Efteling has actually done multiple things with this prank. With the opening of the ride, an augmented reality game was made in which you could catch maybugs in the queue, as many as possible within 1 minute. Afterwards, you could offer the paper bag to Oompje Gijs, which is an interpretation of Uncle Fritz. This is basically a trash can, and Gijs is an icon within the Efteling. The entire park is filled with Gijs variants, begging you for trash. So when you see Oompje Gijs at your next visit to the Efteling, now you know he's based on Uncle Fritz in the story of Max and Moritz. On to the sixth prank, for which Max and Moritz are heading to the bakery. It is around Easter, and Max and Moritz are hungry for some sweets. The baker was smart enough to lock the door as he was heading out, so Max and Moritz had to climb the roof and enter through the chimney. Black from soot, they dropped down out of the chimney, right into the chest of flour. Now completely white from flour, Max and Moritz are on the prowl for sweets. And behold, there are some cracknels up on the shelf. Max and Moritz climb on a chair and reach out, but the chair could not hold them and breaks. The kids fall backwards into a trough of dough and are now covered head to toe. At that point, the baker comes back and spots the rascals drooping off. The baker doesn't hesitate a moment and rolls Max and Moritz up into 2 bread rolls, before shoving them into the red hot oven. After a little while, he takes Max and Moritz back out, the bread being baked well and ready for eating. So you would think this is the end for the 2 kids, but no. They have survived and eat themselves out of the bread like a pair of mice. This caught the baker by surprise, who thought it was finally over with the pranks, and Max and Moritz fled the bakery. That was a close one for Max and Moritz, and the Efteling has integrated this prank into the area as well. Across from the station building is a bakery, Bakkerij Krummel, which is based on the bakery we have just gone over. This bakery offers coffee, bread, sweets, and it gives guests a nice place to sit inside as they eat. The sign shows the baker shoving Max and Moritz into the oven, along with the date of the original story. But the best part is inside the bakery, where you can find the bread shells Max and Moritz were baked in, along with the holes they nibbled themselves out of. However, now we are at the 7th prank, and this is where the Efteling truly deviated from the story. Because this is where the story takes a turn for the worst. Max and Moritz didn't learn from their near-death experience, and now targeted the farmer Mecke. They snuck into his barn and cut gashes into the bags of corn. As they are hiding in the stacks of corn, they see farmer Mecke lift up one of the bags, and as he's about to leave, the corn starts pouring out. Turning around, he is spotting the culprits in the corn, and with nowhere to go, Max and Moritz are caught. Farmer Mecke gets a new sack and scoops the scoundrels in. With the bag on his back, the farmer is hurrying to the mill. Once there, he offers the bag to the miller, saying, "Grind this as quickly as you can." The miller happily obliges, and shakes Max and Moritz into the grinder. Satisfied, farmer Mecke leaves. A job well done, as the mill is crushing Max and Moritz into small pieces. And within no time at all, the miller's dogs arrive to gobble up the ground up kids. When word got out that Max and Moritz passed away in the mill, not a word of grief was heard. The entire village was happy to hear of their demise, knowing they didn't have to suffer through their pranks anymore. And the final sentence sums it up nicely. God be praised, the town is free from this great rascality. The story really took a dark turn with killing off Max and Moritz. Understandably, given the teaming around the ride, this is too much for the Efteling to tell children, and they have opted for an alternate story. The 7th prank at the Efteling is Max and Moritz tormenting the teacher Lempel with whoopee cushions. You can see an instance of this in the queue, and when you are riding on Moritz's side of the roller coaster, which is the green side, Max will be jumping on an oversized whoopee cushion as you are passing through the station. On the second pass through, however, he is lodged into the ceiling. But I guess the moral of the story is basically the 1865 version of around and find out. Honestly, I did get a new sense of appreciation for this ride and the area around it while researching this video. And I find it hilarious to see how the Efteling has worked the story into the scenes and scenery around the ride. And speaking of appreciating roller coasters, Toverland also has a roller coaster that deserves more praise and attention. You can find more about that in the video right here.